I think it's time we try to catch a fox. Hey, I'm John. Thanks for joining me for this video today. Today I'm going to be talking to the model making guru himself, Foxx. And we had a really good time talking and just laughing and joking and getting some insights into everything from how he works to how he got his name. And so I think you're really going to enjoy this video. Well, I'm so excited today to be joined by Foxx, the model making guru. He's here to talk to me, and I am so happy about that. We've been friends for a while, but this guy, he means a lot to me because when I was thinking about getting out of the hobby in 2017, I watched his videos. I discovered him for myself, and he just watching those videos encouraged me to stay in the hobby, and I switched over to sci-fi, and I have been having fun ever since. Foxx, thank you for that, and thank you for being here.
I've never met this guy before. Help! Help! I'm a prisoner. Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm doing all right this evening. I'm doing all right. Now, first things first, how is Mama Foxx doing?
She's absolutely fine. She's doing fine and dandy. She's downstairs watching probably Poirot again, or Midsummer Murders or something. She likes to watch really old 90s TVs and crime dramas, so she's quite happy at the moment. Thank you.
Well, that's good. That's good. That's some good stuff to watch. Now, something I don't recall ever hearing you answer. I don't know that anybody's asked you. I haven't heard it. But what is the story behind the name Foxx?
Partly, I'm an idiot, really. Just kind of. When I was a young shaver of a lad, going back to the 1990s, I found out for the first time that you can legally change your name. And like telling me that was the worst thing ever because I'm like, wait, I can change my name to something else? Okay, it's going to cost me how much? £25? I can do that. So I went to a solicitor and said, I believe I can change my name. And they went, yeah. I said, right, I'm an idiot. Let's just do some nonsense. So I changed the surname first. And then a few years later, I'm like, you know what? Let's just go the whole hog and just have fun. So it was basically just stupidity. Kind of. There was no real. I hadn't committed a crime or anything like that. It was just. I'm just dumb. So when I realised I could do it, I'm thinking I can do this. There's nothing to stop me. I shall do it.
That's funny. So it's not just a nickname; it's a legal name change.
It's on my driving license. It's everything. It's if I ever get stopped by the police, it can get quite interesting.
That's funny. And then, especially because of your last name, it's like the two relate. You know.
I got stopped by the police once as a routine traffic stop, and he asked me my name, and I told him, and I said, "You're not going to believe it," and he went, "Don't worry, I pulled Elvis Presley last week, so I'm used to it."
That's funny. That's funny. So you're right up there with Elvis.
Yeah, except less toilet activity, but hopefully the toilet's better. But the thing is, it's only when you're older and you realise that you have to do something serious. Like, I don't know, I had to report an abandoned car once, or you have to call an official of some sort, like the police or the ambulance, and you realise that name's going to be a real problem. If I have to make an official call and I have to make sure they take it seriously, I might get into trouble.
Oh, that is funny.
But you never know.
They'll answer back, "Who is this?
This is a real call.
Does your mom know you're calling this time of night?"
No, I really do need 17 fire engines right now.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, I was just expecting it was going to be some boring answer about a nickname that a friend gave you in school, but that's gold. That's gold. So
it's not at all that I committed lots and lots of wire fraud when I was younger and had to escape and change my identity. Nothing to do with that at all.
Not at all. Well, talking about when you were a kid, do you recall the first model you built as a kid?
I have a vague memory, a real vague memory of being very small, which is, the normal thing for being a child. And I was very small, and I have a vague memory of being maybe 6 or 7 years old, maybe younger than that. And as I was wont to do as a child, it was round about Christmas time. So, of course, I snuck into my parents' bedroom and had a look under the bed to see what presents were there, because I knew they stole, and they never did. I never understood that as a child. For some reason, I thought they stole them all under the bed. They put them in the wardrobe, but I never figured that out. So I'm rummaging under the bed, and under the bed was an Apollo landing module, a LEM kit. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know what the manufacturer was, because this would have been like early to mid 70s. and I think it was like 1/24 scale or something. It was huge. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember finding that, and I think that was because I remember I showed my dad. I don't know why it was there because my dad didn't make models. None of my family did. So I got my dad to show me how to make it, and I was like
Mm-hmm.
6 or 7, so it was terrible. But that's the first one I can remember. I
Mm-hmm.
think the first kit I actually remember building. I think
Yeah.
it's all foggy from those days.
Yeah. Well, you were so busy thinking about your name change that.
Well, yeah, I've had beer since then. It all goes wrong at that point.
Now, if I recall correctly, you and I have been kind of on a similar trajectory in our modeling paths, in that we modeled in our youth, we had a bit of a break, and then we came back into it. What prompted you to return to the fold, so to speak?
Well, like you say, I've done the same thing as you. You know, you model when you're a kid because you're a kid and it's fun. I
Hmm.
modelled in my 20s because I was single and I was introvert and girls scared me, so I just made model kits and drew drawings. But then I got into, when I got older and I got proper jobs and so on, you get stuck on the everyday nonsense, your
Yeah.
10-hour a day job and everything else, and I lost the time to do it. But I got back into it because around about 2012, 2013, I was working with a guy. He ran a business and I was working with him. He's like my friend, and we
Hmm.
worked together. And we're sitting there one day, and he was going through his midlife crisis, kind of jokingly. He couldn't afford to buy a sports car, so he said, "Should we rekindle our youth and go and buy a model kit?" So I'm like, "Yeah, okay. I've not built a model kit for you," because he says to me, "You used to make models, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I found this place in Stoke. Let's go. Let's just shut the shop." Because we were like a retailer at the time. We sold detailing stuff. He said, "Let's just shut the shop. Go on a road trip to this place in Stoke." Okay, whatever. So I went along, and we went there. And his original plan was to buy like a big 1/16 scale. He can't afford a sports car, so he'll buy a 1/16 scale remote control tank instead. He didn't in the end. He came back with I think a little Tamiya tank, and I came back with a Tamiya Opel Blitz
Hmm.
and some paints, which was I think the last thing I built in the late 90s before I stopped the whole modelling thing.
Hmm.
So we were kind of doing our midlife crisis. Let's get back into the hobby thing. And then he fell out of it after he tried it and didn't get very far, and because he made them as a kid, whereas I made them into my 20s, so he didn't get past the hitting a plastic model with a stick to make it painted. So he kind of gave up quite quickly, but I kind of stuck with it. It stuck with me. I think it rekindled something because
Yeah.
I'd always been a bit arty, but I'd not been able to do anything creative for quite a few years, and I think that was a route back into creative stuff. I'd done like drawing for years, then I did loads of music for years. Then I was stuck in the rut in the job, and then the job allowed me to do a comic strip for a few years because it gave me material, and then that died out. So I was
Hmm.
urgent to get back into something creative, and I think that was at the right time. It dropped me into it back at the where I left off. Kind of, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, when I first encountered your channel, I think it would have been, I don't remember, it
Hundreds
was
of
late.
years ago.
Yeah, it was late 2016, maybe early 2017.
Anything before last year is the dark before
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, before COVID and after COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I first run into your channel, you had just recently gotten into Gunpla,
Oh wow.
and had started doing that. What got you? Yeah, I noticed that earlier. What got you started down that road? What attracted you to Gunpla?
This is the weird thing. When I was a little kid, going back to the late 80s, this is nothing to do with Gunpla, but I made one single Macross kit.
Mm,
Now, I had no idea what Macross was. I was like 14 years old. I went to my local model shop who sold toy trains and whatever the Airfix kit of the week was. And they happened to have a small selection of Macross kits. And I didn't know what they were, but anybody who knows Macross might know it. Imagine a potato, but green, and it's got two legs that kind of have a dog leg at the back. And it's like a walker, two-legged walker. And it's like a lumpy potato
I
with
know
two
what you're talking
little
about.
back angled, and that was my entire experience of any kind of that kind of thing. And then nothing happened for 30 years. And then but I always had in my head, and for many years, and I said this before I did my first Gunpla, I used to say I like the Tamiya tape dispensers because they look like Gundam feet. Now I
Hmm.
don't know why I used to say that because I'd never seen a Gundam. I didn't even know what a Gundam was. But then somebody sent me a mail when I used to do commissions saying, "Would you consider doing a Gundam?" And I'm like, "I'll take any money you're giving me, but what the heck's a Gundam? I don't know." So he sent me some information, and it was commissioned to build the heavy arms, and I was like, that's where I've seen Gundam. I don't know how I knew what Gundam feet were and how I knew that Tamiya tape dispensers looked like them, but somehow I did. But I was like, that's where I've seen them before. Brilliant. So I looked at it and I thought, this will be all right. And I read into it and I thought, oh, it's a push fit kit. This is going to be half the work for twice the commission fee. I like it. And I didn't think anything about it. And then I started the project and I just fell for it straight away.
Yeah.
Because I'd grown up with, Airfix and Revell and Tamiya, and I'd never really done push fit kits. But to suddenly experience, over the many years, I've done maybe a couple of push fit things from Revell and they were terrible, but to suddenly experience Bandai engineering out of the blue with no introduction, I'm like, mind was blown. I was totally in love straight away because I thought, I've never enjoyed the building so much as the painting, and this takes a lot of the building stress away. I can just have fun painting it. How little I knew, of course, because I didn't know about Bandai plastics. So it didn't all take all the painting stress away. Yes, there were a few cracks in that model, but don't tell the buyer. But it was that commission. It was a simply, would you consider doing this? And I'm like, hell yeah, because it's money, I'll take it. But then I fell in love with it. So I probably wouldn't have done them if I hadn't had that commission. So thank you to that person that commissioned me.
Yes, thank you to them, because I saw that, and then I think you had done a couple by that point when I first encountered your channel, and I was just starting to get into it and coming out of a decade of aircraft work, and I thought, and I think you said something to this effect in some of your videos. You push them together. There's no real seam lines. The fit is perfect. Yeah. What's not to like? And I thought, yeah, this is for me. So I really took to them. You seem to have so much fun with them that it just pushed me into it.
It's because it was such a revelation. Like I say, coming off the back of the traditional, because up until that point, I was your traditional military models and occasional sci-fi. So to suddenly fall into Bandai engineering at that point was like this. I hadn't. A lot of people have grown up with the anime. And with, the anime series and stuff, the cartoon series for Gunpla and for Mobile Suit Gundam, I hadn't seen any of that.
Yeah.
My entire exposure to anime at that point was I had watched Akira at one point. I'd watched something with tentacles, which disturbed me greatly. That was about it. And so it was a whole introduction to me to a whole new world. So having not grown up with it or experienced it slowly, it was just like, now you're in the deep end of the swimming pool, boy, swim.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So I think I had that enthusiasm maybe came out then because I was like, this is brilliant.
Yeah. That was one of the things I loved was your fingers would do this.
Comedy jazz hands.
Yeah. Now you had already been making videos prior to doing Gunpla. Wasn't it the Viper Mark II? Wasn't that the first video series you did?
Yes, it was. I had decided to do a series for e-models, and at that point I just got back into the modelling. Maybe over the last year before, and when I kind of stopped doing modelling, I'd gone through the phase of when I first started building lots of tanks and World War II stuff, because that's what we built in the 1980s. Then as a Star Trek fan, I kind of built a lot of Star Trek kits because I didn't know any better and they were all terrible. But then I fell out of it. When I got back in, I of course dived back into the military stuff and the sci-fi stuff because that's what I knew. But then when I decided I was going to do the E-model series, they said, go and pick a kit and film that. And I was already winging it because I had no idea what I was doing. And I thought, well, I'll build something I've built before. And I'd already done a Viper at that point because I kind of fancied the look of the Viper. So I decided to do that one. And so that was my first one, purely because it was kind of a safety net because it was a kit I'd already built before. So I knew I didn't have to worry about building the kit while I was trying to figure out how the hell to film it at the same time with no training or experience.
Yeah.
As it shows in that kit, the third word I say in that build is top professional quality stuff that is.
Well, how did you get hooked up with e-models? Did you just email them and say, hey, I want to make some videos for you? Or did you know somebody there? How did you get hooked up with them? Because you've been working with them for quite a few years now.
Yeah, it really was a case of because when my friend, remember I said about when we went down to Stoke, it was actually e-models that we went to because I'd never heard of e-models before. I think he found them online. I don't know how he found them online. So we did this day trip and went down there. And my experience of model shops before that was my local model shop, which was this big and sold mostly rubbish. Typical 1980s Britain model shop, not very good. So I was quite taken away with them, and I'd ordered a few things from them. And so I followed them on Facebook, because Facebook was still only a few years old at that point, and you followed everybody at that point because you had to. It was what you did on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And they put a thing up saying, would you like to make videos for us? If so, send us an email. And I'm like, okay, why not? I've never made a video. At that point, I'd done my own website for a bit, and I had a blog where I'd write about things, and I'd do photographs and do write-ups. But I'd been thinking about doing YouTube and videos, but never really given any serious thought. And when they said, would you like to make videos? I thought, well, I'll get a kit to do it. I'll get a free kit and I'll give that a go. It might be good fun. It's baptism of fire, but then if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I gave it a try. And they said, yeah, go on, we'll do it. And here we are all these years later.
How about that? That's cool. That's cool. Now, I believe I've heard you say that you didn't know the other folks that when you do the Monday show with Ted and Chris and now Colin, and I think Tony was on there originally. Didn't I remember you saying that you didn't know them when you first started doing that, did you?
No, Ted actually applied at the same time as me when they put the call out for people to do videos. And I think of all the people that replied, because we didn't send them any kind of demo reel. Mm-hmm. It really was a case of, hello, I'd like to build this kit, please. Thank you very much. I've got nothing to show you. Please trust me not to mess it up. And I don't know why, but they chose me and Ted. And I think maybe we were the only two to reply. I don't actually know. It was like, who wants to do a video? Your entry requirement is you have to send us an email, and maybe we were the only two people that got that far.
Yeah.
It's a low entry to requirement that most people didn't actually follow through on.
You were there by default.
Yeah, we're like, well, everybody else stepped back, so I'm the volunteer, I guess. Well, so that was me and Ted at the time. And I didn't know him at that time, because when we did it, there was just Paul Bretland had made some videos for them, and the other thing they were doing was just doing unboxings and stuff. Mm-hmm. And they had no idea what they were doing. If you look at those old unboxings now, there's all copyright music, and they just open the box and go through the sprues, and that's it. Bless them. They were doing what they knew, but they didn't know much. So yeah, I didn't know Ted, and everyone else, so Ted and I kind of got to know each other by default because we were both doing videos. And then Colin and Chris and everybody else that's kind of come into that little group of people has all just been as a natural evolution of me building my little community. Mm-hmm. And people coming into that, and then I try and encourage them, and then they go off and make their own little communities. And I think it's just that natural growth. People have come and gone, but there's been a few like Colin and Chris who've come in and stuck around. And I think it's just people that I get on with. I think just stick around. Everybody else just goes because
the chemistry between y'all is just awesome. I mean, it's just fun to watch because y'all are obviously good friends and have respect for each other, but you have a lot of fun and you joke around, and it's really like sitting in a clubhouse with a bunch of friends and just talking about models.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the thing about me that may not come across because I never shut the hell up. I do know this. I have this problem. I can't shut up. I dominate when I'm doing a stream. I dominate because I just never shut up. People just sit there going, yeah, whatever. Ted likes it because he can just relax when we do a Monday show. But although that's what I come across as, in reality, I'm actually quite shy and quite introverted. So I'm not if I'm in a party, I'm the one in the corner hiding behind the wall plant. I'm the one hiding behind the Swiss cheese plant. Yeah. So I'll always kind of keep people at a certain distance. But then if somebody's on the same wavelength and I kind of pick up on that, I tend to let them in a little bit. And then it kind of grows from that point. So I really do tend to collect. I was going to say people like me, but I could just cut the words out and just say fellow idiots, because I'm an idiot man-child. And if I meet someone who is also a little bit of an idiot man-child, I'll kind of warm to them and let them in. Yeah. And the thing with me and Ted and Colin and Chris is we're all kind of idiots. We're just man-children, and we're kind of silly, and I like that. People that are too serious, they come and go, but yeah,
there's so many people in our hobby that are that way. I mean, there's different personality types, but one of them seems to be idiot man-child. And
well, if you think about it, we're like, in my case, almost 50-year-old blokes sitting there making plastic soldiers. You can't really get more stupid idiot nonsense than that, really. You can't go. I was saying this on a stream last night. The people that are rivet counters that take all this stuff very seriously and get really angry when you put like the wrong shade of Dunkelgelb on a tank. We're making plastic soldiers in our midlives. It's not serious. It's fun. It's nonsense. Let's just have fun, not take it too seriously, I think. But it's people with the same kind of style of sense of humour as me, I think, that I get on with. And that's how that little group's come together, because we're all just simpletons, basically.
Yeah, when I was at a local model show, the newspaper sent somebody to, take some pictures, and I kind of knew the person who was the reporting on the model show, and they said, well, who are the people who typically come to this? And I said, balding, overweight, middle-aged guys that shuffle around, grumbling at squirrels and talking about FS colors, and when they arrive at the venue, they look for the bathroom. And she started laughing, and she said, no, really? And I'm like, no, really?
No, really?
That's who we are. That's who we are.
But the funny thing is, if you go to, because I always say there's two kinds of modelers, and I'm not trying to denigrate people that do serious modeling, because obviously there's a proper venue for serious, super realistic, accurate modeling. That's perfectly valid, and that's something to be proud of. But it's the people. There's two types of people. There's the fun modelers that just do it because it's a passion and it's fun. We do it. We're just making plastic soldiers, and it's good fun, and it's nothing serious. If I try to do something accurate, it's something to be proud of. If I make it a bit silly, that's fine. I've done a Millennium Falcon with Hello Kitty decals on it, so I can't claim to be serious. But I've also done a Hello Kitty Lehman Russ, but there you go. But so there's the kind of not too serious, let's have fun with it, and then you've got the really serious types. But they're always the ones that when you go to a model show, they're the ones that have a table full of unweathered Spitfires.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're just no weathering at all, not even a panel line wash. And it's just, and you're like,
Yeah.
But when they're looking at your model, they're all like, well, I think you'll find in 1943, those rivets were on the other side of that panel. But in reality, their models are just like plastic, primer, Humbrol enamel, done. Yeah. So you get those two types. I'm not criticizing people that try to do horribly, realistically, massively accurate models, because that's a certain skill, and that's something to be proud of. But it's the vocal ones that don't do that, but tell you that you should. They sap the fun out of it. So yeah. There's something fun about doing Gunpla and Warhammer and just sci-fi in general, where if somebody questions it, you go, no, at the planet that was on at that time, that's how it was. The atmosphere was blue, and it made everything rust and purple. So you just make it up. It's like our friend Colin, who did an 88E as a cat. So he did caterpillar markings all over it and painted it yellow. Like Caterpillar the dump trucks. And he did the cat. And it's like he fully expected to show it off in some Star Wars groups and get his backside handed to him. But they were all like, dude, that's awesome. But it would have been typical if somebody had said, I think you'll find that's not what ATATs look like. Yes. So I'm all for seriousness, but I make spaceships and little shouty army men and jet fighters with legs. So I'm not gonna take it too serious.
Yeah, that's the way I feel. I mean, like you said, there's a time to be serious about it if you're doing it for a contest or something, or you want to make it really realistic. But at the end of the day, we're just old guys playing with plastic toys, and it's supposed to be fun. Yeah. Well, speaking of fun, we're going to get to the lightning round. Okay. We're going to have a break in our questions. We're going to get to the lightning round.
I wasn't there. I've never seen it before. I can't do that anyway because I'm too old and I can't flex that much. What?
So you just pick the first answer that comes to mind. Oh, gosh. And there is no right or wrong answer, and the points are just made up. So
I've got my lawyer on standby just in case I say something bad.
All right. First thing, coffee or chocolates?
Coffee. Absolutely coffee.
Every time,
coffee.
Huh?
Every time. I need coffee. Right. Coffee is my life system.
Yep. Okay. You're on a long trip after a heavy meal of Mexican food.
Oh, yes.
As your companion, Chris, Colin, or Ted?
Oh, you're making me choose my favorite child. No. Ted's the quiet one, so his farts would be the worst. So after a Mexican food, Chris is also quiet, so I think I think Colin might have to go for Colin.
Okay.
Because I've experienced Colin farts. And they're a known quantity. Chris and Ted are the quiet ones. I don't quite know. I've never heard them fart, so I might be regretting them too. So I'll go for the quantity that's known, which is Colin Trump's.
That's awesome. All right.
There's the logic there.
All right. I love the logic. All right. You have to give up one, Future or Steinl-Res primer.
Future, no problem.
Okay.
I have to say quite easy because I've not used Future that much lately, so but I can't get a decent primer.
I used to love in the videos when you would say the 2 times more shine and you would do the little
shine.
video. I used to always wait each video going, what's he going to do this time? I loved that part.
The thing is, I've actually fallen out of using since I've started doing Warhammer. I've used it less and less.
Yeah.
So I've not used it for a while, so I need to get back into that.
Yeah. All right. Airbrush or brush paint?
That's a difficult one. If I had to give one up, you mean?
Yeah.
I'd say I'd give up airbrush.
Okay.
I
can see that. I love airbrushing myself, but I like brush painting too.
Yeah.
So I can
there's
see
a lot.
that.
I think most stuff I do with airbrush, I could probably get away with brush painting. It wouldn't look as good, but I could do it. So, yeah. I'd hate to only do airbrush painting. That's the problem.
Yeah.
If you're just doing airbrush painting, there's a lot of stuff you can't do. So,
yeah. All right. You can only build one brand for the rest of your life. Bandai or Games Workshop?
Oh, favorite child. I'd say Games Workshop.
Okay.
Purely because it removes any painting headaches, which is an issue with Bandai stuff.
Yeah. All right. Talking about paints. You have to pick one, use the rest of your life, nothing else. Citadel or Tamiya?
Citadel every time.
Citadel.
Especially if I pick brush painting.
One must accompany the other.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Citadel you can brush paint and airbrush. Tamiya you can airbrush, but you can't really brush paint with it. So I'll go for Citadel every time.
They're difficult. All right.
Oh yeah.
Star Wars, prequels or sequels?
Oh, that's not a good question. I don't like that. That's an evil question. That's just that's Machiavellian. That is.
I knew this one was going to stump you.
Damn it! If I say sequels, then that doesn't include the Clone Wars animated series. But if I want to include the animated series, then I've got to say prequels. But that includes those 3 films that Lucasfilm never made. Oh, I'm gonna have to say. Oh, you're gonna make me say it. You're gonna make me say these words in my. Oh, you're gonna make me say the prequels because I have to. I need the Clone Wars animated series and Rebels in there. Because they're I can't believe you made me say that. I don't like you anymore, John.
I knew that was and you followed the exact logical train that I thought you would. You fell into my trap.
Damn it! That's the Kobayashi Maru. That is.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way because after you watch the Clone Wars and Rebels and all of that, you have to include that. And yeah.
And I have to say, while I've just got the audience here, I have to say a big, massive thank you to my friend Paul, who actually gave me a year's subscription to Disney Plus about a month ago. Because I was talking about it, he said, I've just subscribed you. I'm like, wow, because it now means I can watch the Clone Wars in actual, not 340p on a ropey streaming website.
I'm finishing up season 7, and I love it.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, I'm working my way back through season 1 upwards now, just because up to now I've watched it on like ropey streaming sites at 240p, and it's terrible. So now I can actually watch it on my Xbox in 4K. It's brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant stuff.
It's good stuff. Well, let's talk a little about making videos. I know in my own videography, I guess you'd say journey, there have been some painful lessons that I've learned and still am learning. Did you run into those times when you had to step back and ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Yeah, sort of. Not really why am I doing this, but there's a little battle that you fight that at least I know I fight. I know a few other people that say the same thing. There is a little battle that you fight. If you do anything creative that you're trying to then teach other people through filming it. If you're doing something like making a model or whatever it is, and you're just writing a blog, you just take some pictures, pretty pictures, you write some words, done, there you go. If you're making a video of it, like you want to do a tutorial video or something like that, you've got to do both the thing you love doing and learn how to film it, edit it, record the audio, light it, and all that as well. And you suddenly find that a build that might take you a week to build and paint now takes you like 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only have you got to set up the shots and get the lighting right and everything else, you're kind of having to set the film, get everything ready, start the shot. This is when you do it by yourself. Get the model in place, get it all in focus. Do like 30 seconds of painting or a minute of painting. Stop the camera, transfer, and you're doing all that as well. And it really disrupts the way you work.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, I went through a situation where I was recording a video, and you'll see it in my videos. A lot of my stuff up to now has been I'll turn the camera and I'll be talking to the person while I'm doing it. But over time, that got harder and harder and harder, because what you do is if I'm painting something and I'm talking about what I'm doing and I make a mistake, I have to stop. I hope I can carry on painting a different bit that I haven't messed up, and then I have to say all that stuff I said in the last take again. So what I've moved towards now is more like film the stuff happening and then do voiceover later, because then I can just get on with the painting. But the battle is keeping the enthusiasm for what you're doing, but it's taking you 5 times as long. And you can't just sit there and paint the thing. You have to sit and paint a bit and then mess about with the lights and the camera. And especially when you're trying to do it by yourself.
Yeah,
It's really difficult. If the number of times I've sat there and I've thought of like Duncan and Roger on the Duncan's Painting Academy and thought, I wish I had a Roger that could do all the filming and editing. That would be brilliant. I'd just sit there and paint. Oh. But yes, I'm not that situation yet. But yeah, that's the big battle, I think. I've people have asked about that, and I've said that to so many people. Like, if you want to do this, it's not a case of turn on the camera and away you go. You have to accept that your hobby will become a lot more convoluted.
yeah,
And you may not have the time to do things for yourself while you're starting out. So you've got to accept the fact that your hobby that you have passion for is now going to become a lot more mechanical. So keep that in mind. And it's that little battle. Sometimes I sit there and say, I wish I could just build a model and paint it, but I know I can't do that. So I always win. I'm not going to fail and, fall over, but it's a little mental battle that I've had to go through. I know other people have as well. And I always tell people that they have to understand that. You can't get around that. You have to accept that. At least at this stage. If I've become rich and famous, of course, and I get a production team, then I can have more time to paint my own stuff off camera.
you can do what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that, because quite often when I'm deciding what model I'm going to do in my schedule, first I look for, is this going to be something I want to do? Is it going to be enjoyable? But then I look at, is this going to be easy to film?
Yeah.
Is there going to be interesting there've been a few models that I thought, I kind of want to build that one, but it would be so convoluted to do on camera that I go, I'm going to push that aside and do this other one that's going to be a little easier. So yeah, I totally get that.
I mean, I've had a Mortarian, Primarch of the Death Guard, for you Warhammer fans out there, who's been primed for 2 years, because I bought it and built it. I thought this was going to be a great painting series, and then I realised, how the hell am I going to film that?
Yeah.
And then I haven't got around to it, because at the moment the problem I've got is I've not got some fancy schmancy camera where I can have the camera 4 foot behind me and zoom in.
Yeah.
Which is how if you watch a lot of, say, the Warhammer TV stuff or the stuff that Duncan and Roger do or loads of other ones, they have a nice expensive camera that they can have way off in the background and zoomed in, because it's an optical camera or it's very expensive CCD. You don't lose the quality. I'm filming on an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
If I have the camera 3 feet away and zoom in, it looks like ass. It's not good. It looks terrible. So I have to have the camera close by. So filming small things for me is quite difficult. I've not figured that out yet. But I'm coming to a crossroads where I'm going to have to do, on a current build at the minute, I'm going to have to paint a figure, so I've got to kind of bite the bullet. But yeah, it's things like that you have to start thinking like that, and it does take the shine off the hobby side of it.
Yeah.
And I say to people, you have to fight that battle. You have to accept it's not going to be hobby fun times. It's going to be, you're making a product, you're making a video. The hobby is almost secondary, and you have to kind of learn that side of it and have that little battle.
The videography almost becomes the hobby.
It does. It does become like a job. I don't regret it for a minute, but I like to make people aware of that realism.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just see people like, Duncan or Squidmar or Midnight or any of the other sort of excellent painters out there, Or you've got Zach Aurelius producing like 32 videos a day and sleeping for 1 minute a week, and he's got a family and a job. I don't know how he does it, but it's like you look at it and think, oh, it's going to be great fun. You just turn the camera on and it's like, no, like 10 minutes of footage can be 2 days of work. I can plan a day's work and I can film all day and I film like a minute of stuff.
Yeah.
So I like to set people's expectations at the start and say, don't be too glossy-eyed about it. Until you've got like 3 million subscribers and you can have staff, it's not going to be that glamorous. It's going to be hard work, and you have to get past that.
Yeah. Now, in your videos, you've always had a strong focus on teaching. Is that something from your prior life background? Were you ever a teacher?
No. Bizarrely, I don't know where it came from, because all the jobs I've had over the years have been like customer service, like support and care for telecoms companies, and I hated every customer I ever spoke to because they're all morons, and having to explain things to morons on the phone is never a good job. I swear I had a call once where a guy phoned up and said, I've got this thing from me, and it says telephone bill on the top. What is it? And I said, that's your telephone bill. He went, okay, thanks. 30 years I did that. So you think I'd be the least interested in teaching people, but when I started doing the blog, which was the first thing I started doing way back in the before times, I started out as Wolf Model and Miniatures, which sounds terrible. And it was a little WordPress blog. And of course, I was just doing write-ups, because that's all you could do on a blog, is photographs and write-ups. So he was explaining how you were doing things. And I think the videoing just became a natural extension of that. And of course, the first one I did was e-models. And that wasn't just here's a kit, isn't it a nice kit? Because they didn't just want an open box review or something like that. So I had to kind of explain it. And I was just winging it at that point. And it just kind of stuck. And I kind of enjoyed, I got questions about how to do stuff as I went along, and I kind of enjoyed showing people what I was doing, because I was learning while I was doing it. So I kind of naturally fell into that position of showing people how to do it. Now, okay, a little bit dishonest there. There was a little bit of prior experience, because I'd had similar conversations. One of the conversations I often have is that somebody says, I can't do what you do. And I say, no, you can. All I do is I take a thing and I do something with it in the right way, and it works. That's all it is. There's no great dark mystery. Anyone can, and I say on my teaser video, anyone can do what I do. And I've had that conversation a million times before when I used to do like artwork and drawing and stuff. Oh, I wish I could draw like you. You can. You just don't know how to use the pencil yet. Nobody's shown you how to do it.
Yeah.
And I had that conversation so many times. I suspect that was probably in there as well. As I was learning to do something, I'd want to show other people how to do it, because I was learning some of the basic simple techniques that I didn't know existed 20 years ago, and trying to get rid of that mystery. Now, I'm not a professional, level painter. I'm not a Golden Demon winner or anything like that. I'm a hack, basically. I just do tabletop level painting at best. But I like to show people who can't even do that they can do that, and it's not as scary as they think. So I think it's just a bit of that.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of a really circuitous answer. It doesn't really answer it.
No. That actually leads well into what I was going to ask next, because one of the things I've always noticed in your videos is you're not afraid to tackle new things on camera and show your mistakes. And I recall you saying more than a few times, I mess things up so you don't have to. And that willingness to mess up, you must feel like that is really part of the growth process.
It's partially because I want some kind of honesty with the person that I'm trying to teach, because I've always taken the idea that when I was doing the talking to camera, which I don't really do anymore because I can't do it anymore. I'm too old, and I got to the point where I can't say the same thing 55 times without using all the swear words. I would take the idea that I'm showing somebody who's sat next to me, and I want to be completely honest in what I'm doing. And sometimes when I do a build, it may look like I've planned it, but remember, I'm an idiot. I don't plan anything. I literally turn the camera, right, I'm going to do chipping now, turn the camera on, go, and there we go. I don't necessarily plan a build properly. I'm not efficient. So it does mean that sometimes I will start doing something and without planning it, and I'll screw it up, because we're all human and we all make mistakes. And if it's a little minor screw up, I might just, edit that bit out and not talk about it. But if it's something that I can use as a teaching experience, I can say, well, I've really messed that up, but it's likely that somebody else is going to mess that up the same way. So I probably should show them I've done that, because then I can tell them how to fix it. So if it's something minor like a paint splob, or I've just realised I'm doing, the worst one is when you're doing something and you're looking at the model and you can see something you've missed and you're like, oh crap. You see like a nub and I'm like, I'll just not mention that on camera and hopefully nobody will notice it and I'll just fix it later. So little things like that I don't bother about, but it's like, if I do mess up properly and it's something I can turn into a teaching experience, I'll show it, because they're going to do the same thing. If I know what I'm doing and I make a mess of it, then somebody who doesn't know what they're doing are going to equally make the mess. And if I can see where there have been a couple of times, I won't go into specifics, but there have been a few times where I've kind of deliberately made a mistake, because I've looked at a kit and thought, I know what people are going to do at this point. They're going to do X. And it's really dumb if you do X, but I can see why they're going to do it, because the kit suggests this. And okay, so I'm going to do it and pretend I've messed it up, just so I can explain I've messed it up. Let's try and fix it. So there's a couple of times where I have kind of fudged it and made up that I've messed it up, just because I know the person building this is going to make that mistake, because it's almost like you're walking along and there's a cliff in front of you. Yeah, I can see it coming, so I'm going to show them how to avoid the cliff. But often I just want to, if I'm trying to teach someone, there's no point me pretending that I've not made the mistake. I want them to not do the same thing, but if they do the same thing, they need to know how to fix it. Yeah. So it's just a transparency and an honesty. I will cover up the little things where I can see I've painted something badly. I'll just turn that around. You can't see that.
There've been more than a few times in a video that I might mention in the video. I would go, okay, this is obviously take two, because there's one thing you're trying to show that you're painting, and there's only one surface, and you've already messed it up. So,
well, there's always things like, you'll show a model and here and now we finish this step, and you can see it's looking nice and complete. The next step, and then it fades away just before it rotates around once to like the back, because you just accidentally don't see the back of the model on the rotation, because oh look, I've just faded away from it for a reason you don't know about.
There was it seems like it was a gunpla that I did, that in like each episode I only actually painted one thing, and I got about 4, I think it was the Gelgoog. I got several videos into it before I actually painted like the other 70% of the model. I just filmed it on this one thing because it was easy to film on, and I just kept going with it.
That's the thing that you do. When I was doing the Dakajet, I found that there was one panel on the back near the rear gunner that was the easiest one to film. So when I was doing the chipping, I did it all on that panel. I'm like, well, I could film under the wing, but it's just easier to get the camera there, and I can do it all in that one place.
Yeah. Now, I was watching one of your recent live streams, and you were talking about your own growth in figure painting. You were looking back at the figures from the Land Speeder Storm and talking of your progress since then. What are some current tasks that you currently feel you could use improvement in, and what are you doing to work on those areas?
Well, not painting wise, but filming wise. Painting figures, this is a really complicated sentence. Filming, painting figures, if that makes sense. On the filming side, painting the figures, I've never been able to do it, and I need to get the hang of that. But on the painting side, actually painting figures without being like this, without having the figure right there and my magnified lenses on, because if I need to film them, I need to be able to hold it up on the desk and paint like that. But that's an old man eyes problem, but I need to get used to it. Now I have invested in some very good brushes and found that they have actually massively increased my painting ability, which is really weird. Just the simple act of getting not terrible brushes makes a big difference. I've got myself, so I've obviously got a couple of Winsor & Newton Series 7s, but I've recently got a couple of sets of broken toed brushes, and they're just, I don't know what it is, they just have a nice fine point but a big fat reservoir for the paint as well. And I've suddenly found myself not struggling to paint tiny details quite as much and to paint from further away, which sounds really weird because it's an eyesight issue, but having a good brush has made it easier. So figure painting is one of the areas where I do need to improve so that I can film it. the thing I've got, and I said this the other night on a stream, the thing I've got is that I accept that I paint to a sort of tabletop level.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of my comfort level. A bit higher if I need to. I can go into proper model making techniques that you don't often see, like, you know, weathering and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm actually quite happy at that level. I don't want to progress to, like, you know, our friend Simon, who's won 2 Golden Demons. I don't want to progress to that level because in my mind, I'm trying to teach people how to get to my level. I'm not trying to teach someone how to paint and win awards. I'm trying to teach them how to paint competently. And then they can go off and learn the more advanced techniques themselves. I want to give them that foundation. If I know how to paint like an award-winning model, but I'm teaching someone how to paint it like a tabletop level, my brain will be like, but I can paint it 1,000,000 times better than that.
Yeah.
It's like if I've got a car that can do 400 miles an hour, I don't want to drive at 30.
Yeah.
So I'm very reluctant to. It sounds really weird, but I'm very reluctant to learn beyond my current skill level because that's where I want to teach people. I want to give them that foundation.
Yeah.
But I don't believe if I can paint better than that massively, then I'm going to be happy showing that level.
Yeah.
Because there's some techniques. All the stuff I do is teaching to a certain level because there's easy ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But to get past that, when you get into things like glaze and wet blending, and there's a lot of other techniques that are actually quite skilled, and you can't shortcut them. And you can't say, this technique's really hard, but here's an easy way to get the same. That's what I do, and I can't really do that with a lot of the more advanced techniques. So there's not a lot of things where I think I want to necessarily improve, but I want to get more competent in what I do already, just so I can film it better. I would say, though, which every painter should say this, eyes is always there. I'm never going to do it. I'm just never going to paint eyes because I know I can't do them, and I'm not going to try and do them. But every painter should at least say the one area for improvement I've got is eyes, because eyes.
They are difficult, and especially that, like with GW, there's some really good sculpts that the eyes are very prominent.
Yeah.
And you know, you can't just, okay, I'm just going to shade them in and just leave them as they are. But some of them just beg to be painted.
This is the thing. Some of them where it's like a soldier and he's doing the shouty face and his eyes are all scrunched up. Brilliant. His eyes are really small and I can shade them in and that's it. But then you get like a Primarch or you get a lieutenant who's doing the shouty face with massive dinner plate eyes, and you're like, oh, you gits. Oh.
Yeah.
How am I going to get around that now? Helmet head. Bang, there you go.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I've started doing a lot of Star Wars Legion stuff. I've gotten kind of hooked by painting those figures. And I love it because so many of, like, I'm doing some clone troopers right now. They all have helmets on, you know, so it's a lot easier. But those eyes can really, really trip things up.
Well, I'm doing some Space Wolves at the minute because I've decided I kind of do a thing and then break off halfway in doing it to do something else and then break. And at the moment, I'm doing Space Wolves. And I'm torn because I don't want to paint the faces if I have to do the eyes, but they've all got fabulous hair, and they're all like fabulous flowing hair and pigtails, and it's like, and they've all got like pork chop bit, and it's like, oh, I need to paint the face with the bit, but I don't want to do the eyes. And there's one or two that I've just built. What's his name? Lieutenant Haldor Icepelt, who's got like the one pigtail off a bald head, which is bald head, pigtail. Massive sideburns, which is beautiful, magnificent face hair, but he's got big dinner plate eyes, and I'm like, I don't know that I've got both heads, and I don't know which one to go for. I'm torn because I don't want to paint the eyes. I can't do eyes. Do eyes.
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's one of those things that I've told myself, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm just gonna keep doing it till I figure it out. But there's so many little, you know, painting the creases and the folds in the fabric and getting the blends and all of that stuff. Yeah, it's a constant chase of getting that right.
I mean, I will over time. I'm sure, just by the nature of doing it more often, I will get better at what I do. But I'll still be reluctant to learn beyond that, I think, purely because I know if I know more than I show, then it kind of doesn't sit well with me at all. Because I feel this uncontrollable urge to explain everything I'm doing and to teach everything. But if I'm doing like some 6-week long glazing method to give a guy the correct folds on his shirt, and it takes me 6 weeks, I can't film that. I can't show that. But at the same time, if I know how to do that, I can't do base, shade, layer, highlight and say that's it, because I'll be like, no, there's so much more. I need to teach you.
There can be so much more. Yeah.
But eyes,
And
man, eyes.
and that like we've talked about, that dynamic of having to video it, it sets the course you're on. You know,
Oh, yeah.
you can either come out with something every week and it's at one level, or you can, you're doing something to a really high level, but you have to do it every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks because you're working on that one thing to get it just right. Yeah.
That's the other thing. I mean, we can't, I have nothing but the greatest respect for people like, my friend Si, or for people like Darren Latham and painters like that, who are like massively talented, like the top of their game, producing Darren Latham did for a while. If you've ever watched any of his videos, he's painting these amazing, what would be like Slayer sword winning miniatures, but he worked for the painting team, so and he's showing you how he does them, but they're kind of a half-hour episode and it's kind of truncated a bit and whatever, but that might be weeks and weeks of work, and I can't work to that schedule. It takes me long enough to do a simple video right now, so if I'm doing this for my living, I can't be doing one. Well, I kind of am at the minute, but theoretically I can't be doing one video every 8 months because it takes me that long to paint a guy's face or his ear or something.
Yeah, I heard an interview with, I don't recall who it was, but they had won an award, and somebody asked him, how long did you spend on that mini? And it was a mini on the stand. It was only about this big. It wasn't huge. And he said probably about 200 hours. And I can't even imagine. I mean, I get an hour into it and I'm like, that's good.
I mean, I watched some of Darren Latham stuff, and he's got these brushes that are, he can be like, because he films it, he's got a good camera, so he zooms into like a character, and the character's face is like this big, and his brush just comes in and goes, boop, eyeball. And it's like, his brush is that fat with a point of 1 micron, and it's like, there's like a litre of paint in the brush, and he goes, boop, realistic eyeball. And I'm like, how do you even, I'd be like, if I'd have the brush, and I'd be like, I'd be all over the place. It's just,
I had this theory that the guys like that have a shrink ray.
Yeah.
And they shrink themselves down to the size of it,
Can I just say, I'm so glad that I'm not the only person that ever wanted to do that, or make the model that big so I could paint it easier.
Make it big and paint it and then shrink it back down.
Yes, I'm not the only person that's had that thought. God, because sometimes it looks like that on these videos where you see these like beautifully painted, like Darren Latham stuff, and it's like, blows your mind to have that, because it looks like he's painting something this big, but it's not. It's a little Warhammer Mini.
Yeah,
insane.
It is deceptive when you're looking and you see this mini and you see the brush go in and it looks really easy, and then you actually get the mini in hand and you get a brush in hand and you're like, wait a minute, it feels like the brush is this big, and the mini is just this tiny thing, and you're
But this is what amazes me whenever you watch one of Duncan's videos, because I don't know why, but he often insists on using like the very small, extra small layer brushes from Citadel, which are really good brushes, but the number of times you see him painting a tiny detail on the brush is like that, and he goes in and you think he's painting an eyeball, and you think he's gonna, and it goes boop, eyeball, and you're like, oh, how did you do that? You just painted it with a yard brush. How did you do that? And I'm thinking that's why he doesn't need to get the massive expense. You could that would paint half a face if
one bristle on the brush.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know how you do it.
I see stuff like that, and I just kind of assume I will just never have the raw talent, because I think practice can carry you so far, and learning methods can carry you so far. But I think those guys have an innate talent that goes even further.
I don't know. I was saying this the other day. I don't know if that's the case. I think, because I've always said that anyone can do what I do, and I believe that because I don't do to like that level, but I think that like the whole painting thing is it's 2 parts. It's technical knowledge and imagination. And technical knowledge is just how to use the things you've got in front of you to get the thing you want it to be.
Yeah.
And I think anyone can learn that. And if it's learning how to use that brush to paint that tiny thing, it's just physics. It's just transporting a fluid from this to that, and it's all fluid mechanics and whatever you want to do it. I don't think there's anything stopping you or I learning how to paint like Darren Latham or like Duncan or like any of the guys. It's just, I think, partly experience, partly learning the technical way of doing it, learning the tools of the trade and how to use them and how best to apply them, and understanding the paints. That's all technical stuff. Anybody can learn that. But I think part of it is the imagination, not just the creative imagination to come up with colour schemes and designs, but the imagination to sort of feel the paint and feel the brush and see how it's and know what it's going to do and know. It's kind of there's no way to really put it into words, but to understand and be one with the brush that's got paint on it.
Yeah.
To be an extension of the brush, to almost that's a kind of a thing that I think that's maybe what you're talking about, not talent, but it's that kind of, there's a certain intuition there you can't learn. You can do fine without it.
Yeah.
I think you can either be mechanically talented or intuitively, like imaginatively talented, or both. But you can be one and not the other. I don't know if I've got the intuition and imagination to get like to that level. I don't know.
Yeah.
A little bit perhaps, but not much. But I think anyone can learn the mechanical how to do A
Absolutely.
and B. Anyone can do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Now, the music you use in your videos, that's your own creation.
Mm-hmm.
You had a cartoon series online. You do illustrations for your channel, so you're talented in that. You're an avid gamer, and you like streaming your gameplay. And of course, you're a scale modeler who creates content related to that. If Elon Musk or Bill Gates or somebody like that came along and said they would provide funding for you in an incredible way, but you had to pick just one area to work in, which one is really going to scratch the itch for you? Which one is going to be the one that you go, that's the one I'll do?
That's a good question. There's a good question. I've got to think logically now, because I would probably say, if I was being lazy, I'd say video games, because I can sit on my backside all day and play video games. Hey, but I'm not that bad. I'd probably stick with the models, because I'll tell you for why. The webcomic I did for 5 years was purely a product of where I worked and the conversations I had with my colleagues at lunchtime when we just went outside and talked absolute nonsense, and it just gave me the stupidest ideas.
Yeah.
As soon as I left that job, that comic strip died. It just stopped because it just dried up. The music I did, I recorded music. Not all the music I use is my own, but most of it. That was something I started in the 80s, sort of learning how I'd got into synthesizers and creating that kind of music. And for quite a long time, that was my mojo. It was my passion to make that electronic music. But then it kind of dried up because I got stuck on recreating realistic instruments with the synthesizers, like creating an orchestra or the sound of an orchestra and I got into that kind of music, like movie soundtracks and so on, and that kind of soured it. And at that time, the technology couldn't do that, so that kind of killed my imagination. Dried up there as well because I gave myself restrictions. And then by the time I realised to go back to doing electronica and not symphonic stuff, it had just gone. The technical knowledge, if you like, and the intuitive knowledge had just gone. So that probably wouldn't come back. So I'll probably stick with models, because that's something that I think isn't going to fade away or dry up because of other circumstances. I can always sit back and paint something. And of course, if I was given all that kind of funding, well, then I could have a camera crew.
Yeah.
I could have a Roger.
Yeah.
And I could just sit there and say, right, today we're going to paint this. Film it.
Yeah. Everybody do your job. Let me paint.
And for some reason, I've just got the Joker from 1989 Batman going, Lawrence, paint it. Yeah. So I think that's where I would go, because then I would have the freedom then to do that and not have to do the filming part. Because if I could farm off the filming and the editing and everything else to somebody else and just be the guy that paints the stuff, it'd be incredible. And that's where I want to get to eventually, one day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, kind of segueing into that, what does the future hold for you, short term, long term, and any plans with the channel other than just kind of doing what you've been doing?
Short term, I need to get my backside in gear. The last couple of years, for various reasons, have been quite tricky, and people will know I've not been doing a lot of content. I've not put a lot of videos out, a lot of new builds. I went through a phase where I got quite busy and then it kind of faded out for various reasons that I won't go into, but circumstances got in the way. Real life always gets in the way. I'm kind of turning that around now. So my hope is over the next, say, year or so, I can start getting back to doing regular content.
Good.
I'm in the middle of doing a Lehman Russ build right now. I've got to get that finished, and there's other things on the books. But I think the short and medium term is just to get back into the habit of doing the videos and doing the painting. There was various things that kind of killed that for a while. Personal otherwise that sort of stopped it, but I'm getting around those now. So hopefully getting back into the habit of doing the painting and the filming. Long term, I don't know. I mean, I do it for a living, so it's not much of a living, but it's a living. I do it for a living, so ideally, long term, my ultimate goal will be to be financially secure, but be able to do this. My ultimate goal is to never have to go and work for anybody and be told by someone half my age why I'm doing something wrong. That's my ultimate goal, because that would suck. That does suck.
Yeah.
but long term is just to get to the point where it's providing me a good enough income, basically, that I can be secure and stop worrying about real life. That's the ultimate goal. Cool. Whether it'll ever happen, I don't know. A year from now, I might be stacking shelves in Sainsbury's to make up my income, but who knows?
Yeah. I can understand that. Well, thank you so much for taking time to sit down and talk with me.
My pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for interviewing this silly old man from Britain who's just talks nonsense.
I tell you what, I really enjoyed it because, like I said at the beginning, you really helped me before I even got to know you. You really helped me to kind of find my way back into the hobby. I was thinking of just walking away from it.
Now I've got John and Vangelis singing "I'll Find My Way Home" in my head. Thanks for that.
And you're welcome. And I really did. I watched some of your videos and I thought, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I just made a complete pivot in what I did. And I will always be grateful for that. Well, if you have not visited Foxx's channel, there will be links down below in the description for this video. There's going to be the links to his YouTube channel, his website, to Facebook, and of course, Patreon. As he mentioned, this is how he makes his living. So, if you like what he does and you want to help him, you want to support him. And I think it's important to support the artists in our hobby that do this creation. Check out his Patreon, check out what he offers, and consider supporting him there. So again, Foxx, thank you so much for being on. I am very grateful.
Thank you to you, John. Thank you very much indeed for the time. And thank you to everybody for watching. And, take care of yourselves. And just to go off what you were saying very quickly there, you say, for what I did for you, that's one of the things that keeps me going doing this, because that's why I like to do what I'm doing, because it pulls people up to a level they didn't think they could get to. So that's good for me, because it tells me I'm doing my job right.
And we want you to keep doing it. Thank you very much, Foxx.
Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Foxx is just so much fun to talk to. He's a good friend, and I love his work. And he really, as I mentioned in the video, he really was instrumental in me staying in the hobby back when I was thinking of dumping it. So I'll always be grateful to him for that. Now, there's going to be links, as I'd mentioned, to his website, to his Patreon, to his channel. All that's going to be down in the description. So if you're not familiar with him, go check out his work. Check out his Patreon. I know he would appreciate your support there. And just let him know, if you do get in touch with him, let him know you saw the interview on this channel. And of course, down below, there's also the links to my own social media, to my blog, to my Patreon campaign. So if you want to take a look at any of those, I would be very grateful. And if you're already a Patreon supporter, thank you so much, because it's what you do for me that makes this type of video possible, that allows me to work at the pace that I do with the kits and the equipment and everything else that I have, because we just couldn't do it otherwise. So thank you very much, Patreon supporters. And with all that being said, I'll leave you with one final thought, as I always like to do. In this hobby, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Happy day to you, friends. Bye-bye.
Am I centered and lined up all right for you? I don't know
Yeah,
if
you're
I'm-
good. You're good. Yeah, just be relaxed. That's
Okay.
if you get off camera, I'll say, hey, you're off camera.
I'll just get me cigars and the brandy. Yeah.
There you go.